Good afternoon, and welcome to our session this afternoon on Faith for Earth, a Call for Action. I'm Sister Carol Jean Willey, and I'm currently serving as the Director of Earth Connection in Cincinnati, Ohio. I would like to share this presentation with you because I think it is of such urgent need today to bring together all of the faith communities around a call for action pertaining to climate change. In 1999, the head of UNEP, the UN Environment Program, Klaus Topfer, said, "We have entered a new age, an age where all of us will have to sign on to a new compact with our environment and enter into the larger community of all living beings. A new sense of our communion with planet Earth must enter our minds." The world is home to many religions. And one of the most important aspects of Faith for Earth is to bring the moral voice to the subject of climate change. Because there is a unifying principle that brings together all religious traditions. And I'd like to recite this very short poem, which I think brings together that idea. The whole of planet Earth is a sacred site. All people are the chosen people, and the purpose of our lives is a spiritual one. May we care for each other and for the earth, for everything relates to everything else. Feeling this oneness, may we radiate the light of love and kindness that all may live in unity and peace. This document, Faith for Earth, a Call for Action, is actually a 184-page book, a collaborative effort between the UN Environment Program and the World Parliament of Religions. And again, its emphasis is on bringing together all religious traditions to put forth their moral voices in the climate change agenda. UNEP, UN Environment Program, says spiritual values for more than 80% of the people living on Earth have been driving individual behaviors. In many countries, spiritual beliefs and religions are main drivers for cultural values, social inclusion, political engagement, and economic prosperity. The mission of the World Parliament of Religions is to cultivate harmony among the world's religious and spiritual communities and foster their engagement with the world and its guiding institutions in order to achieve a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Their Faith for Earth initiative has as its mission to encourage, empower, and engage with faith-based organizations as partners at all levels toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and fulfilling the 2030 Agenda. Their vision is a world where everything is in balance. In the year 2012, the UN Environment Program hosted a meeting in Rio de Janeiro. It was the second Earth Summit. It was entitled Rio Plus 20, following on the first one in Rio in 1992. At the time, I was working as an NGO at the United Nations and had the opportunity to attend the summit and listen to world leaders from every country talk about the importance of working together. The Sustainable Development Goals were an outgrowth of that meeting. They were ratified by all of the countries who are members of the United Nations in 2015. The goals are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnerships between the developing and developed countries to reach those goals. The message from the Faith for Earth initiative to all people says, in the last 60 years, more than 40% of the world's civil wars have been linked to control over natural resources, such as land, oil, and water. Climate change continues to be one of the most systemic environmental threats that humankind has ever faced. We need a common ethical system of values, no matter what religion we believe. And so this book, Faith for Earth, is available to download free, and I will give you websites for these later. Also, if you have any questions about what I am saying or some of the initiatives I am talking about, please feel free to write them in the chat. I don't know if we will have enough time to answer all of them, but in the chat, I have already put my personal email. So if you have questions and want to follow up, don't hesitate to contact me. We are the first generation in human history that has the opportunity to achieve sustainable and just societies. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the wealth to succeed. The context in which we will make our choices must include the full panoply of faith, science, and societal institutions. If these institutions are to become agents of sustainability, they will need to be enabled by knowledge and inspired by faith. The Earth Charter was the outcome of the first Earth Summit in 1992, although it didn't come out until 10 years later. There were several at that first Earth Summit: Mikhail Gorbachev, Rockefeller from the United States, and others, who took what was being said and took 10 years listening to people around the world as to what they felt was necessary for people to live in harmony. And if you have never read the Earth Charter, it is available free for download and is certainly a blueprint for what is needed today. It has 4 sections: respect and care for the community of life, ecological integrity, social and economic justice, democracy, nonviolence, and peace. And so the document Faith for Earth flows from the work of those at both the 1992 Earth Summit and the 2012 Earth Summit. They talk about 3 aspects of religion: a worldview or cosmovision, a value system or ethics, and a set of practices or way of life that attune the individual and the community to that worldview. Then it goes through a number of different religious traditions, many religious traditions, including indigenous beliefs. And it takes quotes from their documents and their beliefs to show all that we have in common. And so they start with indigenous beliefs. They give many in the document. I have just pulled out several in order to save time. In terms of indigenous belief, they say indigenous knowledge is a way of thinking applied to phenomena across biological, physical, cultural, and spiritual systems. It is a way of life. A message of the Haudenosaunee to the world. We more commonly refer to these people as the Iroquois. In the beginning, we were told that the human beings who walk about on the earth have been provided with all the things necessary for life. We were instructed to carry a love for one another and to show great respect for all the beings of this earth. We are shown that our life exists with the tree life, that our well-being depends on the well-being of the vegetable life, that we are close relatives of the 4-legged beings. In our ways, spiritual consciousness is the highest form of politics. The Sami people believe that adoring nature and then it becomes sacred. There is a necessity to please nature so that it gives to you. You have to be kind to nature so that nature will give you more. You have to be friends with the environment. Otherwise, it won't work in cooperation with you on whatever you call the spiritual. Notice that a theme goes through all of these beliefs, and that is the reciprocity between nature and people. The Akan people of Ghana say, the aim of African religion is to promote harmony between humans, the spirit world, society, and the environment. Its distinctive feature is the sharing spirit. We believe that Earth is God's gift to us. We are merely the keepers of Earth and are charged with taking care of it and leaving it in a better condition than we found it. During the 8 years I served at the United Nations prior to coming to Cincinnati, I attended the Permanent Forum on the Rights of the Indigenous each year. It is a 2-week forum that brings together Indigenous peoples from throughout the world. And every single year, they would say the same thing to those of us attending. You keep talking about the environment. You keep talking about taking care of creation, but nobody is talking to us, and we've been doing it for thousands of years. Judaism has 14.7 million members throughout the world. In Genesis, from their Bible, it says, God creates earth and all who live on it and sees that it is good. The Jewish Declaration on Nature states, the encounter of God and man in nature is thus conceived in Judaism as a seamless web with man as the leader and custodian of the natural world. Now, when the whole world is in peril, when the environment is in danger of being poisoned, and various species, both plant and animal, are becoming extinct, it is our Jewish responsibility to put the whole of nature at the very center of our concern. Judaism teaches that the whole world is God's house and the wind is God's breath. It teaches that the meaning of goodness derives from the water and earth and all the creatures. It teaches that the earth is the ground of our being and that how we live reverberates within it, that we are indelibly connected to the land. The preservation of our beautiful world is our greatest religious imperative. I also wanted to include on some of these the on-the-ground experience of what people are already doing. And so here in Cincinnati, the Shomrei Olam is the Jewish Environmental Advocates of Cincinnati. It is an organization founded upon the collective Jewish responsibility to care for our planet. It guides, educates, and advocates. It assists the community in making decisions with intentionality to further the good stewardship of our world. It assists the community in making decisions. It also protects the environment for future generations. As I talk about the on-the-ground initiatives, many of you may have some that are in your own congregations, and I would love to know about them. So please feel free to email me any that you are aware of that I don't mention. For Christians, the Hebrew Bible is part of their scripture, but also includes the New Testament. So therefore, selections from the Old Testament about creation also hold true for Christians, but also move on to the New Testament. And so we talk about the cosmic Christ. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being was life. The life was the light of all people. Eucharist or Holy Communion is a central sacrament of Christianity. It makes God present in bread and wine, things of earth. This reflects an understanding of all creation as sacrament, God's presence in the material world. There are 1.2 billion Catholics in the world. Pope John Paul II said the ascetic value of creation cannot be overlooked. Our very contact with nature has a deep restorative power. Contemplation of its magnificence imparts peace and serenity. The Bible speaks again and again of the goodness and beauty of creation, which is called to glorify God. Pope Francis wrote an encyclical in the year 2015. Encyclicals are generally letters written by a pope to the Catholic congregations throughout the world. However, this encyclical was written to every person living on the planet. It covers ecology, economics, politics, education, theology, and spirituality. Since it was published, public perception of climate change as a moral issue has increased significantly, and more people have been motivated to take action. When writing this document, Pope Francis had an entire group of people from multiple religious traditions advising him as to what needed to be included. And out of that come what we call the 10 green commandments of Laudato Si. First of all, seeing Earth as our common home. It is in peril. Take care of it. Listen to the cry of the poor, who are the disproportionate victims of the crises of our common home. Then judge. Rediscover a theological vision of the natural world as good news. Recognize that the abuse of creation is ecological sin. Acknowledge the human roots of the crises of our common home. And then act. Develop an integral ecology, as we are all interrelated and interdependent. Learn a new way of dwelling in our common home and manage it more responsibly through a new economics and a new political culture. Educate towards ecological citizenship through change of lifestyles. Embrace an ecological spirituality that leads to communion with all of God's creatures. And care for our common home by cultivating the ecological virtues of praise, gratitude, care, justice, work, moderation, and humility. And on the ground, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati has a Laudato Si recognition program and honors each entity throughout the diocese who makes special efforts to integrate Laudato Si into their daily work and planning. And they honor them at a special session, usually on the Feast of St. Francis in October. The Green Patriarch is Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew. There are 260 million Orthodox Christians in the world. And he says, to commit a crime against the natural world is a sin. For human beings to cause species to become extinct and to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation, for human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its climate, by stripping the earth of its natural forests, or by destroying its wetlands, for human beings to injure other human beings with disease by contaminating the earth's waters, its land, its air, and its life with poisonous substances. All of these are sins. It is what we today are calling structural sin. The World Evangelical Alliance has a statement on creation care. This alliance represents more than 600 million evangelical Christians. And it says, in Christ, the presence of the kingdom of God is marked not only by renewed fellowship with God, but also by renewed harmony and justice between people and the rest of the created world. The World Council of Churches has 350 member churches of differing traditions, 500 million Christians. And they state, nations and international agencies, we need you to step outside your transient comfort zones, to transform policies, take responsibility, and act against the unbridled consumption pattern that is destroying our planet. As people of faith and goodwill, let us unite across religious traditions and divides to nurture and protect creation for all living creatures today and for generations to come. On the ground, I'd like to share with you some of the initiatives of Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church. They have been involved in Care for Creation initiatives for over 10 years now and have excellent programs many of us can learn from. In terms of green faith, they state our worship and discipleship will celebrate God's grace and glory in creation and declare that God calls us to cherish, protect, and restore this earth. 4 Sundays a year, preferably aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, will be devoted to earth care. They do additional sermons on earth care. They have earth care awareness dramas, arts, and banners. They have earth care moments of mission, readings, prayers, hymns, pesticide-free flowers and plants in their services, paperless services, eco palms for Palm Sunday, and an eco-focused Lent discipline, as well as communion by intention. They also have multiple green learning opportunities. We will seek learning and teaching opportunities to know and understand the threats to God's creation and the damage already inflicted. We will encourage and support each other in finding ways of keeping and healing the creation in response to God's call to earth keeping, justice, and community. They also do green outreach. They encourage public policy and community involvement that protects and restores the vulnerable and degraded earth, as well as oppressed and neglected people. They state that they will be mindful that our personal and collective actions can positively or negatively affect our neighborhood, region, nation, and world. We will seek to achieve environmental justice through coalitions and ecumenical partnerships. And they have green facilities. Our buildings and grounds will be managed, maintained, and upgraded in a manner that respects and cherishes all creation, human and non-human, while meeting equitably the needs of all people. In our buildings and on our grounds, we will use energy efficiency, conserve resources, and share what we have in abundance so that God's holy creation will be sustainable for all life and future generations. You may not see it from this picture, but they do have solar panels on this church. Islam has 1.8 billion members, and they state that unity, trusteeship, and accountability, the 3 central concepts of Islam, are also the pillars of the environmental ethics of Islam. They furnish us with a worldview which enables us to ask what we can do within the ethical boundaries established by God without violating the rights of his other creatures. Muhammad said, "The world is green and beautiful, and God has appointed you stewards over it." The Quran lays down the foundations for the conduct of our affairs in creation. At one level, it is about conserving the body and soul and the making out of our relationships with the natural order. At another level, it is about the communities of beings that fly and crawl and lope and swim. And at yet another level, it is about the cosmos, the elements, forests, mountains, and rivers. The soul does not regard the world of nature as its natural enemy to be conquered, but is an integral part of its religious universe, sharing in its earthly life and, in a sense, even its ultimate destiny. The Fiqh Council of North America is a gathering of Islamic scholars from the US and Canada. And they stated, "We acknowledge that there is an urgent existential threat to the health, well-being, and continuity of life on Earth. This time to effectively respond with individual and collective actions to environmental challenges is extremely limited. At a fundamental level, this means that we must reduce our energy consumption by first dramatically reducing emissions from our home energy use. Second, adopting a more plant-based diet and reduce food waste. And third, minimizing automobile and air travel. Zoroastrianism has 110,000 members, and they state that the role of mankind in the world is to serve and honor not just the wise Lord, but the 7 bounteous creations of the sky, water, earth, plants, animals, man, and fire, the gifts of God on high to mankind on earth. In helping to bring about a state of perfection in this world and in the 7 creations, Zarathustra enjoined his followers to tread an ethical and righteous path. Nature is seen as not only having its intrinsic value, but is perceived as being sacred. All forms of life have a right to live and grow in the biosphere. Our concern for nature is not confined to only plants and vegetation. It respects all creatures. In one of the aphrins or prayers a Zoroastrian recites, it states, "I pray for the good of the life of all the living creatures which Ahura Mazda, God, has created." The devout Zoroastrian regards the elements of nature with the most profound reverence. The Baha'i faith has 5 million people worldwide, and they state that the grandeur and diversity of the natural world are purposeful reflections of the majesty and bounty of God. For Baha'is, there follows an implicit understanding that nature is to be respected and protected as a divine trust for which we are answerable. Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, wrote, "The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens." Only a comprehensive vision of a global society supported by universal values and principles can inspire individuals to take responsibility for the long-term care and protection of the natural environment. For Baha'is, the goal of existence is to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. Such a civilization can only be built on an earth that can sustain itself. The Baha'i commitment to the environment is fundamental to our faith. At the heart of Baha'i is the conviction that humankind is a single people with a common destiny. This is a Baha'i temple which I had the opportunity to visit in India. It looks like a lotus and takes into account all of the outside views of nature so that as you are worshiping, you feel yourself to be an integral part of all of nature. Hinduism has 1.2 billion followers, and the Hindu viewpoint on nature has been clearly enunciated. It is permeated by a reverence for life and an awareness that the great forces of nature, the earth, the sky, the air, the water, and fire, as well as various orders of life, including plants and trees, forests and animals, are all bound to each other within the great rhythms of nature. The divine is not exterior to creation, but expresses itself through natural phenomena. The Hindu tradition of reverence for nature and all forms of life, vegetable or animal, represents a powerful tradition which needs to be re-nurtured and reapplied in our contemporary context. Let us recall the ancient Hindu dictum, "The earth is our mother, and we are all her children." The root scripture of Hinduism is the Vedas, meaning sacred knowledge. The universe, immeasurably vast, comes from a single divine source. The completed universe is imaged as a living organism, a vast ecosystem in which each part is inextricably related to the life of the whole. The Jain religion has 6 million members, and their ecological philosophy is virtually synonymous with the principle of ahimsa, meaning nonviolence, which runs through the tradition like a golden thread. Jain cosmology recognizes the fundamental natural phenomena of symbiosis or mutual dependence. All aspects of nature belong together and are bound in a physical as well as a metaphysical relationship. Life is viewed as a gift of togetherness, accommodation, and assistance in a universe teeming with interdependent constituents. Nonviolence, positively expressed, is reverence for life with love, compassion, and empathy for all living beings at every step of daily life. All the venerable ones of the past, present, and future discourse, proclaim, propound, and prescribe thus in unison. Do not injure, abuse, oppress, enslave, insult, torment, torture, or kill any creature or living being. Using any resource beyond one's needs and misuse of any part of nature is considered a form of theft. Indeed, the Jain faith goes one radical step further and declares unequivocally that waste and creating pollution are acts of violence. Buddhism has 535 million members. It is a religion of love, understanding, and compassion, and is committed to the ideal of nonviolence. As such, it also attaches a great importance to wildlife and the protection of the environment on which every being in this world depends for survival. We regard our survival as an undeniable right. As co-inhabitants of this planet, other species too have the right of survival. Let us share the conviction that conservation of the environment, the restoration of the imbalance caused by our negligence in the past, be implemented with courage and determination. They believe that the cosmos is a cooperative. The sun, moon, and stars live together as a cooperative. The same is true for humans and animals, trees, and the earth. When we can realize that the world is a mutual, interdependent, cooperative enterprise, then we can build a noble environment. If our lives are not based on this truth, then we shall perish. And on the ground, the monks in Thailand decided to ordinate the trees. And so they held ordination ceremonies where they wrapped the trees in the orange cloaks that the monks wore so that they would not be taken down. The Sikh religion has 25 million adherents. We are called to the vision of Guru Nanak, which is a world society comprising God-conscious human beings who have realized God. To these spiritual beings, the earth and the universe are sacred. All life is unity, and their mission is the spiritualization of all. The reality that humans create around themselves is a reflection of their inner state. The current instability of the natural system of the earth, the external environment of humans, is only a reflection of the instability and pain within humans. The increasing barrenness of the earth's terrain is a reflection of the emptiness within humans. Their scriptures declare that the purpose of human beings is to achieve a blissful state and be in harmony with all of creation. Becoming one and being in harmony with God implies that humans endeavor to live in harmony with all of God's creation. And so they have installed solar panels on their San Jose Gurdwara, which is what they call their center for worship. Confucianism has 6 million adherents, and they believe that the earth is alive. We observe its presence, appreciate its beauty, and participate in its creativity. The world is a precious heritage passed on to us from our ancestors, and it is a resource entrusted to us by numerous generations yet to come. The doctrine of the mean describes the power of sincerity that emanates outward from the human heart to the cosmos itself. When people cultivate their authentic nature, they are said to affect the rejuvenating forces in the natural world. In realizing one's authentic self, a person forms a triad with heaven and earth. Confucius says, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. The dynamism and adaptability of humanity enable us to enter into a variety of reciprocal relationships within our environment and to form an intricate network of communication with heaven, earth, and the myriad things. Nothing in the cosmos lies outside the orbit of human sensitivity. The human ability to respond helps us to interact sympathetically with nature rather than try and dominate it. Taoism has 12 million adherents. They believe that everything is composed of two opposite forces known as yin and yang. Yin represents the female and yang represents the male. The two forces are in constant struggle within everything. When they reach harmony, the energy of life is created. From this, we can see how important harmony is in nature. People should take into full consideration the limits of nature's sustaining power, so that when they pursue their own development, they have a correct standard of success. If anything runs counter to the harmony and balance of nature, even if it is of great immediate interest and profit, people should refrain themselves from doing it. Taoism has a unique sense of value in that it judges affluence by the number of different species. If all things in the universe grow well, then a community is a community of affluence. If not, the kingdom is on the decline. And throughout China, they have set up an ecological temple network where they have demonstration sites and educational programs which demonstrate environmental protection, protection of wildlife, and collaboration with all parties. Shintoism has 3 million adherents. The ancient Japanese considered that all things of this world have their own spirituality, as they were born from the divine couple. Therefore, the relationship between the natural environment of this world and people is that of blood kin, like the bond between brother and sister. Faith is as eternal as heaven, a Shinto prayer says. It's as eternal as heaven and earth. Restore us to our original brightness and grant us strength that we may overcome life's difficulties and live in harmony with the divine way of great nature. And so that's an overview of some of the world's major as well as minor religious traditions. And included in many of those are multiple other smaller traditions. But there are environmental ethics that have a thread running through all of these agreements. And these are the points on which all religious traditions do agree. The natural world has value in itself and does not exist solely to serve human needs. There is a significant continuity of being between human and non-human living beings, even though humans do have a distinctive role. This continuity can be felt and experienced. Non-human living beings are morally significant in the eyes of God and or in the cosmic order. They have their own unique relations to God and their own places in the cosmic order. The dependence of human life on the natural world can and should be acknowledged in ritual and other expressions of appreciation and gratitude. Moral norms such as justice, compassion, and reciprocity apply both to human beings and to non-human beings. The well-being of humans and the well-being of non-human beings are inseparably connected. There are legitimate and illegitimate uses of nature. Greed and destruction are condemned. Restraint and protection are commended. Human beings are obliged to be aware and responsible for living in harmony with the natural world and should follow the specific practices for this prescribed by their traditions. And so I'd like to show now some of the on-the-ground initiatives that are happening. Right here in Cincinnati, we have an initiative called Faith Communities Go Green. It is a collaboration between EquaSion and the Green Umbrella. Its mission is to partner with religious communities to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all by mobilizing their moral voice to reduce the risk of catastrophic climate change. Their vision is that religious communities need to collaborate to integrate care for creation in their lives and societies. I put their website in the chat room so that any of you who might be interested in joining in this initiative are most welcome. The initiative was started about a little over a year and a half ago and has grown to many, many religious traditions in the tri-state region. And we would love to have more of you become a part of this. You simply go to fcgg.org. Green Faith is an international organization. It's a fellowship which brings together a community of people who dedicate 10 months of their lives to participating in webinars on how to make a religious environmental impact. They connect and collaborate with Green Faith partners in over 30 countries, and you are invited to join their global network of over 500 diverse faith and spiritual leaders. Faith in Place is a Chicago initiative, and when we began Faith Communities Go Green several years ago, someone invited me to look at Faith in Place as a model. They've been doing this for quite a number of years, more than 20 now, and they have hundreds of congregations throughout the state of Illinois that are engaged in caring for the earth, providing resources to educate, connect, and advocate for healthier communities. Simply go to faithinplace.org and you can see some of the incredible initiatives they have undertaken. The Faith for Earth initiative states that scientific evidence documenting the crisis is undeniable and grows with every passing day. At the same time, there has been a surge of faith-based action and advocacy on behalf of the environment from religious groups everywhere. The response is coming from every corner of the world, reflecting both the diversity of the ways we define our relationship with nature and the essential unity of values at the core of all our hope. And when you look back over whatever religious tradition that we have talked about says about the environment, imagine what it would be if each of us lived out of the values of our own traditions and collaboratively worked together for the good of our common home. I put this website also in the chat. This is a dialogue center which flows out of the UN Environment Program, and they offer some excellent learning courses on how to take care of the environment from multiple different perspectives, from the economic perspective, from the agricultural perspective. I recently took a 2-month course from them, which gave me a phenomenal amount of information, as well as some very practical things that can be done. So I invite you to take a look at what they have to offer and see if it's something you might be interested in exploring. Some of the things that they offer are booklets. This one is a guidelines on greenhouses of worship. And we are inviting through Faith Communities Go Green for all of you to participate this evening at 7 o'clock on our webinar on how to form green teams within your congregations. And we have a number of people from different traditions talking about what they have done and what you might do in your own communities. So a guidebook like this is available free to download on their site. Another one that's free to download is Fostering and Communicating Sustainable Lifestyles. These booklets are like 48 to 150 pages, but give you multiple different ways of becoming more engaged through your own faith tradition in participating in caring for our common home. And so Faith for Earth, a call for action, concludes by saying, it is time as never before to call on our faith, our values, are religious teachings and traditions on faith for earth, and it is a time for action. So I thank you very much for participating in this, and I will go to the chat and answer as many questions as possible. Okay.
Sister CJ, I don't actually see any questions in the chat, but maybe if you could invite some questions, that would be a
Sure. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them if able, or send you to resources that can do a better job than I can. But I do see that among many of you, you have included things that you are doing. And I invite you at this point, if your community has a green faith team, would you tell us a little bit about what it is doing? You will hear this evening on the Faith Communities Go Green webinar from 4 different panelists who will talk about what's happening in their different faith traditions and what you might think about doing in your own congregations. And I see people are putting other kinds of things in the chat room that you might want to take a look at. One of the things that is really exciting today, I think, is that this is popping up all over the world. That moral voice, that voice that all of our traditions hold, is starting to speak in multiple languages in many countries. And there is a real desire to come together around those initiatives. Faith Communities Go Green here in Cincinnati and throughout the tri-state area is offering a $1,000 grant to any 2 congregations who will come together on an initiative. And so you might think about applying for that through the Faith Communities Go Green initiative from their website. Think about other congregations that are in your area, and might the 2 of you collaborate on something? Okay. Sorry, Kyle has said here, non-hosts and panelists cannot see what's in the chat. So please share what people are sharing if you want us to see them. I'm not sure I'm understanding that. Joey, are you understanding that?
Yeah, so Kyle is saying that if there are people who are responding to your question, that that other people aren't actually able to see what they're saying. There hasn't been any responses yet, Kyle, so you're not missing anything. Yeah. There has been a fair amount of resources put in the chat up to now, which I think you have been able to see. Things like the learning course that Sister CJ addressed, or the Eco Challenge that Dr. Buchanan put in the chat. So those are the resources that I think are worth consulting there.
And so I really invite each of you to look at your own religious tradition and ask yourself, what can we be doing? What can I be doing personally? But recognize that we can do so much more together than we can do alone. We are doing a survey on the FCGG website, and it's only 7 questions, but we're asking you to provide resources to help all of the congregations. We can help you with a lot of things by connecting you with others who are doing similar initiatives. For instance, one initiative is gleaning. And so gleaning is the process of picking up vegetables, etc., after the harvest. There are oftentimes a lot of things left lying in the fields. And so a number of congregations are now choosing to glean by picking up what is left and bringing it to food pantries. So you might consider doing something like that. Others are looking at the property that they have and asking themselves, what can we be doing with the property that we have? According to the Faith for Earth initiative, religious traditions throughout the world own 8% of the world's habitable land. That is a phenomenal amount of land. What are we doing with it? Can we grow an orchard? Can we have community-supported agriculture? All of these are the kinds of questions that we can be asking about our own congregations. I think, again, one of the things that you see flowing through all of these traditions is the intimate connection between humanity and other living beings, as well as non-living. That each faith tradition talks about how important it is to recognize that humans have been given the opportunity to steward the earth, but not to extort from the earth. And I think we are recognizing today, as we look at what is happening around the world, as well as within our own countries, that there is a need for us to take action and not to wait. And I think looking this past couple of weeks at some of the photos which have been coming to us from the Webb telescope, they have given us an incredible view of a universe of which we are a part. And the question is, how are we taking care of our part of the universe? And so if there are no questions, I want to thank each of you for participating today. And again, invite you to join us. Thank you very much.